Could we be getting any closer to seeing an end to the Canada Post worker strike? With new framework for a deal presented to the union, officials are hoping to resume negotiations.
Well, we're still going over the document right now, and hopefully the mediator, he'll say, hey, there's enough here on both sides. Let's come back to the table, because we have 55,000 postal workers on the streets not making any income right now. We also have the Canadian public who wants us to get back to work.
The strike now in its 18th day. While specifics on the new framework have not been made public, Canada Post suggesting its latest proposal shows movement on some key issues. The union has been asking for improved working conditions and compensation. Another key issue is a push to expand parcel delivery into the weekend. The federally appointed mediator suspended talks, saying both sides were too far apart last week. So we have heard from the union, and now with more on what's at stake, we are joined by John Hamilton, Vice President, Strategic Communications with Canada Post. John, thank you so much for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
I know that some of this framework needs to stay at the table, but what can you share with our viewers? Because clearly there's a lot of interest in this.
Sure. We're hoping that it will allow talks to reignite, allow us to get back to the table very quickly so that we can hammer out a deal. It's still, we still have proposals in there to change our delivery model to provide things like weekend delivery. That's crucial to our future, and we can't lock into a 3-4 year agreement maintaining our current mail-based delivery model that doesn't allow for weekend delivery at an affordable rate, because we've seen what's happened to our parcel market share the last 2 years because of the increase in competition coming out of the pandemic. So beyond that, we've made some moves in terms of our offer. Some we'd argue are pretty major, and others, is maybe as far as we can go. But we're hoping that, CUPW is looking at that, and they're looking at their list of demands, and we can narrow the gap and find that common ground that has been so evasive to this point.
We heard from the representative from CUPW. As you noted, cost seems to be a big thing when it comes to these alternative models. Is that purely what's at stake when it comes to looking at these alternative models?
Well, I think it's more than cost. It's about that flexibility and ensuring that we can provide this in the long term. So when we look at weekend delivery, we're looking at a mix of full-time and part-time, but the weekend is 2 days. And we look at that and say, if we could bring on full-time people, they'd be, if we could bring on part-time people and they could still have benefits and still have guaranteed hours and things like that, and the potential to add more hours, then that gives us the flexibility and puts us in the ballpark, because Canadians not only want 7-day-a-week delivery, they don't want to pay for delivery. There's a cost for that at somewhere. So the more competitive we can make that rate, the more we'd have a chance to grow our parcel business, because that's what we have to do. That's the only place where there is growth in the delivery market.
Anyone who's looking at the calendar right now, they are counting down. Realistically, given how close we are to Christmas and the holiday season, if this was resolved in the next week, could the backlog be caught up to? What realistically could happen or would happen?
There is some backlog that we need to get through. There's anything that was in the system 3 weeks ago when CUPW declared the national strike, because then everything was just secured, and that has not been moving. Everything else, there's been nothing coming into the postal system. So no mail, no parcels. During the duration of the strike, we've lost out on about 19 million parcels as of today that would have come to us that have gone to the competitors. So we will ramp up as quickly as possible. But first and foremost, we need negotiated agreements that give that certainty that Canadians need to trust the postal system again.
Let's talk about some of the layoffs that came out as of late. A number of people affected, as we heard from the clip there. Why do this? Some people might say, is there really a point in doing this at this point? Workers are not getting paid, so what would be the point?
Yeah, the employees are all out with CUPW's national strike, but again, when this started, we had no idea how long it was going to be. CUPW is really in the driver's seat as to what their strike was going to look like. They went full national, which is the first time we've seen that in decades, which is having a huge and immediate impact. But you have to look more at the impact to our business. We've got zero revenue coming in, zero parcels coming in, zero mail coming in, so we needed to take steps to protect the long-term future of the company, because we are not, we were already losing money, but things are only getting worse.
Where's your confidence level right now on any sort of resolution? You had mentioned that a mediator is needed, but we heard the federally appointed mediator saying both sides really seem to be very far apart. So what do you anticipate to happen next?
We'd like talks to get fired up again this week so we can start to hammer out a deal. We've put forward a framework that allows for that discussion to get going, and we'd like to hear back from CUPW and then work through some of the issues, because it's all about finding the common ground. The reality is the delivery business has changed so much. There are more people in the delivery business in Canada than any time in our history. So we need to get back into that game, but we can only do it with a path that gets us to the future, allows us to provide the kind of convenience that customers and retailers are looking for, that we can't do today with a Monday to Friday business model that has been, that was largely developed for mail.
Lots more to come. John Hamilton with Canada Post, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.